Hi guys, and welcome to a new video. So today I have the Surface Pro 6 and the Surface Pro 3 together with me, and today we're basically going to do a normal comparison between these two devices. So this device here came out like a few months ago, so it's a really new device. And this device here over here is a device from 2014, so it's almost 5 years old. Both of them are running full Windows, so you can compare these two tablets to normal PCs. So you can run all of the programs of which you can run on Windows, like Chrome, like Firefox, like, I don't know. There are a lot of programs. You can even do Photoshop, full Photoshop with these devices, and so on. Right, guys, so today we are going to compare these two devices. So you can see they look pretty identical to each other in terms of design. You can see that the Pro 6 has got smaller bezels, so let me change the background here. You can see the bezels of the Surface Pro 6 are a bit smaller because it's a newer device. Like the display of the Surface Pro 6 is 12.3 inches, where the Pro 3 has got 12 inches of display. And due to that, the bezels on the Pro 3 are a bit thicker, like 4 or 5 millimeters. But you can't notice the difference that quick if you switch between these devices. And due to that big bezels, the Surface Pro 3 has also got this Windows button over there. So this device here came out together with Windows 8, and Windows 8 had no Windows button in the system, and this was the reason why they have added this Windows button over there. So this device here came out together with Windows 10, and because of that they don't need this Windows button anymore, because the Windows button is always present here on the corner. In Windows 8 there was basically no Windows button. Right, guys. So talking about the specs, so this one here is the i5 model of the Surface Pro 6, and this here is an i5 version 2. But the difference here is that this dude here uses the 4th generation of the i5 processors from Intel, where this one here uses the latest 8th generation of the i5 processors of Intel. So this one here will have a much better performance if you do Photoshop, if you play games, etc. And something different which we need to say is that this dude here has got an active fan. So this here will try to keep cool, and because of that he will need to use his fan, right? This here has got an passive cooling system, so it hasn't got any fan and it does not make any noise. And the fan of the Surface Pro 3 is really loud, guys. So this is a big problem if you hate fan noise. So the Pro 3 has got a really loud fan. So the i7 version of the Surface Pro 6 has also got a fan, but it's not that loud as the fan of the Surface Pro 3. And another problem together with fan is that if the Surface Pro 3 is using its fan, it's also using a lot of battery, right? So the battery will drain much faster if you play games and the device turns on the fan. Right, guys, so there's also an M3 version of the Surface Pro 6, which costs about £700 or £600 maybe even. And this dude here has also got an i3 version, which costs about £300 right now. And both of the tablets here have also got an i7 version of them. As I've said before, the i7 version of the Pro 6 has also got a fan, but it's not that loud. Right, guys, so now let's talk about the display. So the display on this dude here is a bit bigger, as I've said already. So there's this difference of 0.3 inches. And you can also see that the display of the Pro 6 is slightly bit more brighter, so there's not a big difference, but you can see that the display of the Pro 6 is a bit brighter than the Pro 3's one, and you can also see that the white colors are much better on the Surface Pro 6. You can see this here looks like real white, and this one here has a small yellowish white over there, so you can see the difference if you have both devices next to each other, but you won't notice the difference if you don't have both devices next to each other. Right, guys, so the problem here on the Pro 6 is that it has light bleeding, okay? Right, this here is my black wallpaper, and you can see that the display, okay, you can't see it really on the camera, but the display on the corner or on the edges here, or the pixels here at the top, are a little bit brighter than the pixels in the middle, so there's a small light bleeding there. The Pro 5 or the 5th generation of the Surface Pro had a big problem with light bleeding, but we don't have the problem on the Pro 3. So if you hate light bleeding, the display of the Pro 3 will be much better, but you also need to keep in mind that the display of this one here is only full HD, I guess. I'm not pretty sure, but this one here has got a much better resolution. Right, guys, so now let's talk about the speakers of both tablets. So both of the tablets have got dual stereo front-facing speakers, which is really nice. And both of them sound really good. So I've used this one here in the kitchen today, and I've noticed that this one here is not that loud. So if you want to have a tablet which has good sounds like the iPad, I would definitely go for the Surface Pro 6. Yeah, but now let's do a small comparison. So let's start this video here on the Surface Pro 3 first. Okay, that's enough. Now let's switch to this one here. Du bist jede Nacht allein und weinst in dein Kissen, egal was sie denken, es reicht was wir wissen, egal was sie reden. So you can see that the sound on the Pro 6 is much clearer and it is much louder. So this one here will give you a much better sound experience than this one here, but still this one is enough. So it has got two stereo speakers, both of them are great. But this one here is definitely the leader. Right, guys, so after we have talked about the speakers, after we have talked about the display, now let's us talk about the storage. This here is the 125 gigabytes model, but the problem here is that you only have 80 gigabytes free. So you can only use 80 gigabytes on this device, even though you buy a device which claims that it has 128 gigabytes. This device here is really new, so we haven't used this device since now. And you can see that we only have 75 gigabytes free, which is not that much. So you can still use your micro SD card here to expand the storage, but your micro SD card won't be as fast as the internal SSD, which is inside the device. Right, guys, so this here is the 256 gigabytes model of the Surface Pro 6. And which has 8 gigabytes of RAM, so both of them have the same amount of RAM inside. And this year, I mean, together with this year, you won't reach the limit that easily of your storage. So yeah, so there's also a big price difference if you want to have the 250 gigabytes model of the Pro 6. So it costs like $1,200, which is a lot of money. Yeah, and so if you want to have storage, you should definitely give more money or buy an older version like the 5th generation of the Surface Pro and use the 250 gigabytes model, because 80 gigabytes is not much for a Windows device. So 80 gigabytes may be enough for an Android device, but 80 gigabytes on Windows is not that much. So this is something which you definitely need to keep in mind. Right, guys, so now let's talk us about the design of these two tablets. So you can see the design is pretty similar, the colors are pretty similar. This one here is also available in matte black, which looks really, really amazing, but the matte black version of the Pro 6 has a bit problems with its color, so it's scratching very easily, and the color is rubbing off very, very easily, especially here on the kickstand. Right. You can see the camera and so on. The design is pretty much the same. You can see there's a small difference here. You have two different logos. So here you got your Microsoft logo, which is a small mirror. And here you have your Surface branding on the Surface Pro 3. Of course, the kickstand of this one here is not as good as this one here, but this is because this here is like 5 years old. You can also see that there's a small difference. So this one here has got a much better magnet, and this one here makes a lot of noise if you are closing your kickstand, and this here is really, really quiet. Yeah, so you can see the colors and so on are almost the same. Even this plastic bar at the top is still present on the Pro 6 here. Another difference is that the Pro 6 is a bit smaller than the Pro 3. And you can also see that the Pro 6 has got its volume rockers on the top, where our Pro 3 has got its volume rockers on the sides. So both of the tablets have got a 3.5 millimeters headphone jack, which is really, really nice because the new iPad hasn't got any. So you will definitely need to use wireless headphones on the new iPad. And yeah, so this is not that nice, to be honest. Right, guys, so now let's talk about the camera. So I won't open the camera, but I can talk about my experiences together with it. So this camera on the Pro 3 is real shit. So it's really, really bad. So you can use the front cam for Skyping, etc., but you can't do any pictures of yourself, and you can't even do good pictures together with this back cam. So if you are in class and if you want to take a picture of a paper or something like that, this camera won't be enough, so you will definitely need to use your phone to take a picture of your sheet. So the front cam of this one here is much better, and you can also see it has got a few more sensors. So this one here has Windows Hello, this one here doesn't. So here you need to type in your PIN in order to log in. It's not necessary on this one here. You can basically use your face, just like the Face ID on Apple's iPhones, and you are logged in. So the cam on this one here is much better, so you can even take selfies together with this tablet. I don't know who wants to take selfies with a tablet, but yeah, you can do if you want. And the back cam of the Pro 6 is also much better than this one here. You can take pictures of your sheet, and you can also read all which you had on your paper. And you can also see that the camera of the Pro 6 is a bit bigger than the one on the Pro 3. Right, so talking about the ports, so we have already said that we have a headphone jack on both devices. The ports are 100% similar. So you have your mini display port here and your USB Type A port there, together with your charging port. And here we have our headphone jack. So there's nothing more. There's no USB Type-C port on the Pro 6, even though this is a 2018 device. But for me, it's not a big problem, right? I mean, I don't have any device which runs together with USB Type-C. I mean, all of my devices, all of my USB sticks are still Type A. And to be honest, I've never seen a guy which uses Type-C USB sticks or Type-C devices. I mean, I have seen mouses, or I have seen keyboards with a USB Type A thing there, but I've never seen a keyboard with USB Type C, right? So, I mean, okay, we are in 2018 and almost all devices have USB Type C, but there are no devices which you need to use USB Type C, right? So I don't think that USB Type C is necessary. If you want to have it, of course, the Surface is not made for you, but I don't need it, and I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of people out there who also don't need the USB Type C port. Right, so the same ports are on the Pro 3 over here, and yeah, so you can see. Okay, we need to rotate this thing here. I want to make a small reboot test on both devices. So here we go. So I won't be able to press on both of them at the same time. So I will turn off the Pro 6 first and then the Pro 3, but I will try to make it as fast as possible. And we're also going to note this, that I am turning off the Pro 6 first. So this here has 1 second, took 1 second more. And here we go. So the Surface Pro 6 is already turned on. This one here has 1 more second. But even though I turned it off 1 second after the Pro 6, it took like 10 seconds longer. So there was a difference of 9 seconds or so. So there's a big difference. Of course, this one here has got... Whoa, dude. Of course, this one here has got a faster SSD, and it will also turn on faster. It has also got a faster processor in it, and yeah. Right, guys. So of course, this one here.
There's a lot of customization.
Okay, this is crazy.
Within the mode itself.
So, of course, this here is the better device. I mean, there's a difference of 5 years in there, but this one here is still able to be your personal PC. You can use this as your PC. You can use it as your, you can use it instead of your laptop. It's a nice device. I still use it for my university. Like, I got this pen here, the latest generation of the pen. So, writing on the Pro 3 is as good as writing on the Pro 6, so there's absolutely no difference between these two if you use your pen. So for studying, and so the Pro 3 is definitely enough, and you actually don't need to upgrade to the Pro 6, because this one here costs a lot of money. If you have got the money, of course you should go for this device here, but if you think like if you think like $500 is enough for university and so on, you should definitely go for the Pro 3s, because it's enough. It does its job and so on. You can also use the Pro 4, which has also got a slightly better performance than the Pro 3. It has got the 6th generation of the i5, as I know. But yeah, so that's it, guys. If there are any questions, you can ask them in the comment section down below, and yeah, peace out.